I have to apologize in advance. I know the sound is going to be terrible on this, but the game was too important not to record, and I want to get it down before I lose it. So occasionally these games corrupt after a certain amount of time. So anyway, there was this game against Nightbreed, 1978, and well, you'll see. I will also bring up the deck list for Breya afterward, only because I did change it after this video, so I don't want to confuse the situation. There'll be cards in this game that I might not have currently, one or two differences, but I'd rather just stay consistent. So anyway, I'm playing against Monoblue Azami, and if I remember correctly, I think I'm going first here. No, I'm going second here. So to be honest, this is a hand that I probably should have kept. I have a shot at drawing a land. I have two shots at drawing a land. And if I do get a land and get Dark Confidant on the table, especially given that I can Stoneforge shortly after, I'm in great shape. So I decided, though, that I didn't want to take that chance, and I was going to mulligan into a better hand, of course. I did not. I got this here. This is playable, but the problem with this is I can keep it and preordain into some land. But if I do, then what is this hand actually doing? These are all late game plays. I had some really weird string of luck too, where I just kept drawing Sword of Feast and Famine over and over. It's it's a great card, but generally not one you want in your opening hand. So anyway, I decided to mulligan this as well. I mulliganed into no land at all, although this is keepable if I could find an island, then I could get a first turn ponder off my scribe, for example. Then I could ponder into a second one land most likely, and then impulse into a third, and then try to win the game with Winter Orb and Shackles, two cards that should win the game against Azami. Actually, for that reason, this might have been the most keepable hand of them all, but I decide not to go for it. I'm going to mulligan again. This deck does mulligan very well. There's that sword showing up again. I'm going to have to take a mulligan. There's nothing at all and absolutely no game plan, so that's gone. Okay, so I'm not going to mulligan again. Going to one certainly isn't going to help me because at best I would find maybe something like Mishra's Workshop, and then the top card of my deck could be something really good. But outside of something like that, this is going to have to do. And I scry a strip mine to the top of my deck, and now I actually have a game plan. So the game plan here, the strip mine plus fabricate, tells me that the best chance I have to win is to try to put together Crucible Lock. And I, very fortunately, my opponent's early plays, either a combo one with some of his cards or a defensive one, but because I'm already losing the game, I want my opponent to play defensively and not aggressively, or I'm in big trouble. So this works out for me real nice. So I go Fabricate into Crucible. And I have the Strip Mine in play only because if I draw like a Mox, I could Mox into Crucible and then activate Strip Mine twice. I did, have, of course, Telegraph here. So I tried to Strip Mine one of my opponent's islands, hoping he'd sack his map and leave himself with just one mana untapped, at which point I would have gone Grim, Crucible, and then replay Strip Mine. But since he didn't, I'm not comfortable running it out. It looked that to me telegraphs he has a counter spell, but look what I drew. An actual counter myself. So I get to go Crucible, opponent attempts to counter, I get to counter back and Strip Mine my opponent. He says FFS at this point, which internet slang for him being very unhappy. So anyway, I drew that to ready there, which is also very timely. And I make a misplay here. I play the Strip Mine and attempt to use it on my turn when I should be using it on my opponent's upkeep or during my end step if my opponent makes a play. I should not be using it into untapped mana on my turn. And I get punished for it with a Trick Bind. But fortunately, again, my opponent is not pressing his advantage that he would have had and is giving me all kinds of time. So I'm able to cast on this turn to ready and kill a artifact land. Also, because my opponent played an artifact land there, I got to not play Strip Mine and still continue to destroy land, which is important. My opponent copies Crucible, and I simply cast, replay Strip Mine, cast Breya, and destroy his copy of it using a Thopter token, and now I've got some pressure. My opponent chooses not to bounce Breya, which probably makes a lot of sense. Instead bounces my token. I can't pay to stop that. Opponent then plays Mulldrifter, bounces his own Mulldrifter there. I guess he could have bounced Breya here and tried to just slow me down a little, but it would be somewhat foolish. Alright, so I'm going to produce a Construct, Attack, and Pass. I have a Cryptic in my hand, so suddenly, like, I'm totally in the driver's seat at this point in the game off this Mulligan. My opponent plays a Sower. I'm going to just let that resolve. Strip mine my opponent's untapped land, use the ready, again, just crushing him with the ready, to kill that Sower, and we're back in a strong position again. When it goes for Mulldrifter, I'm just going to let my opponent dink around with Mulldrifter bounce activations over and over. Yes, he's not going to miss a land drop, but I'm just going to keep attacking, and if we do nothing but this for the rest of the game, I'm perfectly satisfied with that outcome. Alright, so I kill an island, attack my opponent, and I drew Dak Faden. This is amazing. No more Crystal Shard silliness, but I also get the Shard as a defensive card, which is kind of neat. Excuse me. Opponent plays Breya, or copies Breya and plays a Mulldrifter. It's a Dance of Many, so with Dance of Many, my opponent actually has to pay an upkeep cost of 2. So because I DAC into Demonic Tutor, I go ahead and just tutor up Orb. I'm going to destroy whatever land my opponent untaps. And of course, he cannot pay the 2 mana on Dance of Many, so Breya will die, leaving him with just 2 Thopters. And I figured at this point, here's where he has to attack Dak Faden, but for some reason chooses instead to attack the ready, which was wonderful for me. So I'm going to go ahead and strip mine and then bounce one of his guys. Just plus up the ready and Dak so that neither of them perish. I can now attack my opponent, and he can't kill either Planeswalker. I'm going to get to do the same strip mine Crystal Shard trick, so it turns out the Shard was useful this game, or very soon I will be able to. And with the handwriting on the wall, my opponent scoops to my Mulligan to 2. I thought that was really exciting and pretty fun demonstration of how strong this deck can actually be, given certainly lucky top decks, but you know, against Monoblue, that's quite a feat. I was really happy with it, and hopefully you enjoyed watching that game. It's just a quick video here. I will show you the deck list as it stands, at least right now. Oh, I thought I had it up already. Yeah, so as of right now, I'm using by force and not Vandal Blast, which I think the right answer is going to be either. You've got to play either Vandal Blast or by force, possibly both. Right as for now, though, I am also using Wear and Tear. So Wear and Tear is Wear and Tear. It doesn't kill first turn Soul Ring, which I think is a disappointing thing about it. But on the other hand, I also took Fragmentize out, and Wear and Tear does allow me, like Fragmentize, to kill a Sylvan Library on turn 2, even when I'm going second. And I think that's pretty important. So finding the right mix between, I think the cards that you should be using in this Breya deck should be something like By Force, Vandal Blast, Disenchant, Wear and Tear, Fragmentize, some mix of those cards at a minimum, along with Dak Faden and Duretti. But figuring out the perfect mix is definitely part of the fun, and it's certainly a challenge. So for now, I've got it where it's at, and this allowed me to put Palace Jailer in, so I decided to move a little bit towards the, I wanted a little bit more card advantage, and so Jailer does a very good job of that. I also went in and put Jitte back in, because at this point, I have Snapcaster and Jailer in here, and at this point I have 6 creatures, and once you get enough creatures, I think having the additional effect that Jitte offers is worth it. It's just a matter of, you don't want to necessarily rely on only Breya to use your equipment, because it's possible your opponent, if you don't get Cavern of Souls, can just keep Breya off the table, or address Breya with a sweeper, and then keep it off the table with counters. So you need to have additional creatures to take advantage of enough equipment, but I think with 6, it's probably enough, especially given that both of those creatures are human, and I can use them with Cavern of Souls. So we'll see if it stays this way. I'll kind of get a sense of whether or not I need more artifact removal. Do I need, like, the Fragmentize and the Vandalblast for the early Soul Rings, or can I get away with having it the way I have it? A lot of times, the threat with the decks that are running Soul Ring and Mana Crypt, with the Soul Ring and Mana Crypt draws rather, a lot of time the threat is that they ramp into even more artifact mana. So if that's the case, then by force maybe just fine to basically clean up. Like you kind of want to let them overextend and then clean it all up. And that's where I think Bifrost is actually stronger than Mental Blast, because if you have 2 to 3 targets, somewhere around there, Bifrost is cheaper to play. So there is that. Anyway, that's all I've got though. We'll see how it shakes out. And the main thing was just getting that game down, especially with what I expect to be really bad sound, given that I'm using my laptop and not my broken headset, which was the problem in the last video. The headset broke. So anyway, thanks very much for watching. That's all I've got for now, and I'll see you next time.